this is just too hard. Tell me, how do you even pronounce this? In this video, I'm going to talk about 6 memorization tips that helped you remember any Chinese character. Yes, any. When you are learning Chinese characters, do you stare at the characters and will it into your brain? Repeat writing the characters endlessly? Keep chanting and just pray that it will stay in your memory. While they may not be wrong, it may take a much longer time to store it into our long-term memory. Not to mention that it's also very tiring. Another way of learning Chinese character and memorizing them is through pictogram. Only about 5% of Chinese vocabularies can be deciphered through pictograms. A large part of it is actually formed with its phonetic component. Just by understanding some of the basic phonetic component, we can already pronounce some words without understanding its meaning completely. This is especially useful for your Chinese oral passage pronunciation. So in these words, we are really taking the phonetic component of the different characters. Xi, sheng, zheng, zha, ling, li. Note that sometimes the phonetic component remains, however, the tone may be different. Here we take a look at 4 different characters to see how the component fang can vary in tone. Fen, fang, bu, fang, fang, fu, fang, qi. When looking at these characters, it probably has this phonetic component fang. We just have to do a slight tweak in how the tone sounds like. To understand how many Chinese words have the same yun, let's take a look at these examples from our Chinese O-level syllabus. Jian, jian zhi, 欠道歉, 廉, 廉价, 嫌, 嫌弃. You will notice that all these actually inherited the 韵母 yan, ian, and just by changing the 声母, get the pronunciation of these words. When we are quite unsure, we can build on our prior knowledge to help us learn the pronunciation of new words. For example, when we learned 间 in Sec 2, we can easily make connections to all the other words such as 嫌, 廉 in the other levels when we picked up these new words. This happens often for subgroups of 声母. Tip number 3. Analyze the radicals of the character to give a clue to its meaning. So the radicals are components that we often see in the Chinese character. 木字旁, 言字旁, 口字旁, 竖心旁, 提手旁. It gives us a clue to what the word could possibly mean. Let's figure out what these 4 have to do with. 喧嚣. We can see the radical 口, 口字旁, so it has something to do with sound and its actual meaning is loud and bustling. 惋惜, that's the radical for 心, so it has something to do with emotions, and in this case it has to do with the feeling of pity. 潸然泪下. You will see a lot of radicals that has to do with water, and in many cases it has something to do with tearing up. So this is crying. 瘫痪. So you see the radical that signify sickness. 瘫痪 literally means to be paralyzed. 难. We just have to change away the consonant into T and you realize it's 瘫痪. 一点都不难. In this method, you would want to link each item that you are trying to memorize with a specific image and a place. You can use the room in your house and imagine the items lying around your room. Practice time. Let us take some vocabularies from the Sec 3 O-level syllabus. 荆棘 泥泞 曙光 Imagine that there is a golden chicken sitting on the thorns and thistles on the plants in my room. Golden chicken sounds like 金鸡. I will help myself remember the sound of it being 荆棘. And then I will try to remember its meaning from the imagery of the thorns and thistles that it is sitting on at my window. Thereafter, I will picture a muddy swamp just built right on the floor that I might slip into, full of mud. 泥泞. So this muddy swamp. 泥泞. Picture the sun ray shining in and brightening up the whole house, including that golden chicken. 曙光, light and ray. By placing all these images and linking up with its original meaning, I'm trying to force myself to remember how they sound like and what the meaning of these words are. For example, when I'm trying to remember this word 凌晨, it made no sense to me. If I use other methods that I've learned previously, there is 日, so it tells me something about the day. It's a time after midnight and before dawn. I could make up a story like 林老师和陈老师改我的作业改到凌晨. So they effectively link 凌晨 together to associate the sound with the word, as well as form a ridiculous story around it to associate the meaning. Check out my 2 other videos which I talk more about the different kind of tips and tricks that you can use in your learning of the Chinese language.